Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We will be jumping into Patronicity's Lighter, Quicker, Cheaper Challenge Grant that we just launched this fall. If you have any questions, please add them to the chat. Lauren, my team member, will be answering them, hopefully in live time. We will get more time to answer additional questions at the end of the webinar. But as they come up during the session, please feel free, add them right to the chat. So Patronicity. If any of you are not familiar with Patronicity, we are a local community-based and civic crowdfunding platform, and we aim to build vibrant communities. We connect changemakers like yourselves with funding partners like our granting organizations to support community-led projects. Our vision consists of three main elements. We look to revolutionize development by democratizing funding in the planning and implementation process, transforming communities by harnessing crowdfunding and crowd granting, and ultimately empowering change makers like yourselves to create more sustainable, healthy, and equitable communities. Now, to dive in, this is the Lighter, Quicker, Cheaper Challenge Grant conversation and webinar. This is our second webinar. In the first webinar, we covered a more in-depth overview of the grant and eligibility. We talked a lot more about ideas, and we brainstormed different projects that people can create in your community. So if you're looking for more of those elements of the webinar, please feel free to check out that first webinar. The recording is on our website. In this webinar, we're going to jump in, do a quick overview as well of the program. Then we will be diving into the crowdfunding portion of and crowdfunding support. If you have any other questions on ideas, on project types, any of those things, feel free to shoot us an email or message us in the chat. But a lot of those ideation and brainstorming was in our first webinar. Program overview. Who can participate? Anybody and everybody. So entity types that are eligible, it could be an individual, non-incorporated person with a great idea, or a small little community group, block club, also unincorporated. You could be a nonprofit organization, a small business, a municipality. So from big to small, any types of groups, entities, organizations, people, residents, single person teams or 10-person teams, anybody and everybody in between is eligible to participate in the challenge. Simply having an idea, getting started, and then getting your community to rally around it and supporting it through the funding process to help fund it, to bring it to life. That's what this program is really about. How it works, review the guidelines. That's the first and foremost piece. The guidelines can be found on patronicity.com /lighter, quicker, cheaper -grant. Lauren will post that URL in the chat as well. You can review the guidelines there on what is eligible. Really, any type of project in all across the country and Canada is eligible. We are looking for lighter, quicker, cheaper projects. So as the name is, they should be a lot easier to lift or create. They should be quick implementations. We're looking for projects to be completed or started within the next 6 months. So by the next 6 months, once the program is over, so until about June of 2025. If you have a project that extends beyond that, submit. We have a way for you to give us a little bit of details, and there can be granted an extension. And then projects that are simple and easy and quick and cheap. So if there's something that you want to test out, this is a great way to come up with those ideas and implement them, raise some funds to get it started. Prepping your ideas, the second piece, after you read the guidelines, and anything and everything really goes. The third important piece is complete the pre-screen form. The pre-screen is just an eligibility questionnaire. It takes about 3 minutes to complete, where you're located, what type of project you have, what the end date is, And as soon as you complete that, within 2 to 3 days, you'll get the approval to start working on the campaign page. This will just be the draft of your page. You'll start building it from adding images to the text to any potential giving levels. They don't have to be rewards. We'll talk a little bit through some of those ideas as well later today. And as you're creating that campaign page, it'll just be in draft form. Once it's ready, you can submit it for approval. Our team will review it really quickly, give you any feedback you have to improve it, as well as just ensure that it still meets all the eligibility criterion. And then you're ready to run your campaign. Campaigns will be run between October 1st and December 7th. We recommend about 3 to 6 weeks in running your campaign. We don't recommend using those entire from October 1st to December 7th to run the campaign, but campaigns cannot launch earlier than October 1st and cannot end after December 7th. Running your campaign within that time frame is the most important piece. And that's where you'll generate all the engagement and outreach and marketing to get community members, patrons to support your campaign. At the end of that period, the winner will be determined. The winner for this challenge grant, there's a single winner up to $5,000 in a matching grant. That winner will be determined by the project that had the most patrons. So this is really about engaging your community. And those are most unique patrons. So engaging your community, getting the word out there, getting support. Obviously, the funding is really important. But showing the broad community appeal is equally as important. All funds will be dispersed, even if you don't hit your funding goals or you fall short or you're not selected as the bonus prize winner, you'll still be able to retain funds if you choose the partial funding option. And then you'll be able to take those funds and build a smaller scaled down version of your project. Today, as I mentioned, we'll be jumping into the crowdfunding strategy, what it takes to set up the page, what it takes to run the campaign, and all the engagement and ideas and best practices in running a more successful crowdfunding campaign. If any of you have run a crowdfunding campaign before, that's great. If any of you are new to crowdfunding, do not worry. Crowdfunding is a really simple process of garnering your community, getting the word out there, and allowing people to support projects through a very simple online donation process. We believe in crowdfunding because it's a great funding tool. It engages your community. It tells a story of what you're trying to create. It's very transparent so people can see, hey, this person, this group, this town is looking to build a community garden. They have the space, they have the project, they have the idea. They just need $3,000 to buy the supplies, and then they're going to transform this vacant lot on the corner of Main and Tabby Street into this vibrant space. Whether it is that community garden to create, increase in pollinators, and allow thriving bee community to grow, or for educational purposes, for young, aspiring agriculturists or little farmers to get their hands dirty in the soil to learn more about planting, gardening, and growing. Any of these ideas, maybe it's a mural. But crowdfunding tells that story, allows people to buy into the initiative, the dream, the vision that you have and that you're painting. And that allows you to connect and build a donor base of people that want to support that project. What we find through crowdfunding is not only does it build a donor or patron base, but it turns people into more than just financial supporters to a project. People want to come out and engage, and they want to volunteer. They want to support. They would love to be a part of future initiatives that you create. We see constant and continual outreach from previous supporters, donors, and patrons to new donors and patrons to support future projects that come to life. And then ultimately, crowdfunding helps you learn fundraising skills. One of my favorite stories is we had a person who had never fundraised before, was really nervous, ran a crowdfunding campaign. A few years later, they actually was working on a political campaign and took some of their fundraising strategies that they learned in helping run a local community um, uh, political campaign for elected office in their town. So it's a great, opportunity to learn fundraising skills and apply fundraising skills. Crowdfunding strategy guide. This is a guide we've designed to help you run a more successful crowdfunding campaign. You'll have access to it. You can go to our resources.patronicity.com to download it. You can also access it as soon as you start a campaign page. So after you complete the pre-screen form, you'll get the notification to start a campaign page. When you start that, we'll follow up with this guide in the email as well. The guide includes a step-by-step approach on how to get started. It'll help you think about the timeline and running the campaign and making sure you have all the pieces that you need to develop, run, launch, and execute and fundraise and crowdfund throughout your campaign. So we're going to get into some of the strategy. Best practices are broken down into 5 main categories: campaign management, the marketing coordination. This is one of the most important parts of crowdfunding. The funding is really important, but I always say the crowd comes before the funding. So oftentimes more important than the funding is the crowd, is building the community, is getting the support. And so it's just as much of a marketing campaign as it is a funding campaign. And then incorporating other ideas. Event coordination. Are there local things that you can pop up into to spread awareness? Making sure you do the books and the accounting side, and then having your team, a network, and influencers who can help promote it. So we'll jump into phase 1 of preparing for your campaign. As you're working to build the crowdfunding page, one of the other more important things is planning your outreach. Who are your target partners, sponsors, supporters, patrons, donors, identifying them, coming up with what we call a target list, right? Here are like 20 people that we know we can reach out to, who one will either be supporters and backers, patrons that'll contribute, whether it's $1 or $5 or $50 or $100 towards the campaign, but they'll also help promote it. Both of those elements are equally as important. Getting people to be patrons and donors, as well as getting people to be cheerleaders, amplifiers, and influencers. Gathering those influencers and donors ahead of time to say, hey, we're going to come up with this campaign. When it's ready, we would love your initial support. This isn't your broadband appeal. This is the potential supporters, those core people within your inner circle that's going to help you promote and be your early supporters. Coming up with a campaign calendar. You're planning on running a 4-week campaign. What are the milestones that you want to reach? What are the social media posts that you want to come out with on what dates? Email newsletters, who you're going to talk to, who you're going to call, what are events that are going to happen. Thinking about that campaign calendar so you have it planned and scheduled makes the campaign a lot more manageable, as opposed to kind of just running through it as you go. Creating outreach materials. A lot of these outreach materials we encourage to be created digitally, right? Having something ahead of time that you're like, hey, on the first day of our campaign, we're going to have this social post. The 5th day of the campaign, we're going to do another social post, and it's going to be a different graphic. On the 10th day of the campaign, we're actually going to find one of our early donors and patrons and do a short interview of why they love our project and post that onto like our social media. On the 2nd day, we're going to have an email that's going to go out. I'm going to actually compose it. So creating those outreach materials ahead of time will help you plan and get ahead of the curve for running that campaign. So come October 1st or October 7th, when you launch, you've done the groundwork leading up to that launch. And then ultimately completing your campaign page. So all of these other elements are happening as you complete that page. That page will have the title of your project, the funding goal, the details, maybe some pictures, some giving levels. We're going to dive into that very shortly. Launching your campaign. Uh, this is all about making it live. So on that day, whether your timeline that you've decided was October 1st, you're going to launch, maybe it's the second week of October that you're going to launch, identifying that day, launching that campaign on your campaign page, there's going to be a little button that says go live once it's approved. You simply go to that page, you hit go live, and now it's time to reach your audience, right? Find those patrons. Um, Take those outreach materials that you've been prepping and put them into action. Look at your calendar and say, hey, this was our first day. This is what's going to be sent out today. This is day 2. The email newsletter goes out. This is day 3. This is what happens. I do my calls. So that's in launching your campaign. When you launch, that's the time to activate your influencers, right? That's when the campaign is live, it's ready to accept contributions and donations. So now it's time to do that public promotion and appeal, getting all of those supporters, whether they are financial backers or cheerleaders. We need both to make these, successful and make these campaigns successful. And then getting personal, right? All members should have their own outreach to do. We have seen campaigns run by single team, people, and one person teams do wonders. But as soon as you add people to your core crowdfunding team, your project team, you amplify, most importantly, the outreach potential of your campaign, right? If everybody has a list of 20 people, some of them may overlap. That's okay. You know the same people, but you're going to reach new people and have a different voice that's going to reach out for that campaign. So getting personal and making sure all your team members have their own outreach and then connecting with people. There are tons of initiatives that people want to support, but a lot of times people support things because they trust in you, right? They know, hey, Susan or Jonathan is running this campaign. I'm not really into murals, but they're creating this beautiful mural, or they're activating this garden, or they're putting in seating in an outdoor alley that lacks some of that seating. But I always go past it and I grab a coffee and I just wish there was a place to sit. You entrust in them, whether you may not, know of the projects that they're working on. And so sometimes getting personal with your connections will allow people to want to support the initiatives that you are a part of, whatever they may be. And then lastly, events. If it's possible, join events that are already set up. Maybe there's a local festival. It's, fall time's coming around. Kids are back in school. Campuses are busy. Joining events that are already set up is a great way to launch your campaign or keep that momentum rolling. Or setting up your own events. Maybe it's partnering with a local eatery that on a single night where a portion of all proceeds go towards your campaign. Those are the types of events to make your campaign recognized, special, and amplified. During the campaign, evaluate and follow up. See what's working, see what's not. See who's contributed on your target list. See who hasn't. See who's shared it. Continuing to share the message. And most importantly, thanking your patrons. Thanking them after they've contributed. I recommend daily or every couple days, if not weekly, if not every couple days, at least weekly, and go through who are all the patrons that donated today, these last 2 days, the last 3 days, last week, and send them a personal thank you. They're gonna get a thank you automated email from Patronicity and your campaign already, but a personal touch to it amplifies that feeling of connectedness. It also encourages them, and you can encourage them, hey, reach out to a friend. I challenge you. Can you get someone else to match your donation in any amount? Whether they gave $100 or whether they gave $1, tell them, hey, find someone else to match that you gave. And that's going to create that ripple effect or that domino effect to make the crowd work for you. Manage those donations as they come in, see where you are in your budget, and then be out and about. Meet people where they are to seek their support. And then lastly, one of the things that we notice is crowdfunding campaigns, we recommend about a 30-day window. Granted, you can make it a little bit longer, but one of the things that we do notice is the majority of contributions come in the first and last 3 to 5 to 7 days, first and last week of your campaigns. That means you're going to have initial supporters, and then you're going to have the rest of us who like to procrastinate. And so having that end date creates a sense of urgency. That's what results in some of the great success in crowdfunding. You're going to reach a marketing cap, right? So having a campaign open for 6 months is not going to generate any more contributions per se. Your marketing is going to be, kind of closed, and that's, I think, what makes the urgency and the appeal of crowdfunding so successful. So make sure in those final days you're rallying your team, making sure you're nudging, and reminding any stragglers, any people you know who said, "Hey, yeah, I'm going to support that. I love that work." But you haven't seen their name come up on the patron list. Remind them to find another friend or family that you don't know of that can support it. That urgency is going to help in your outreach. And then prepare for the closeout on that last day to make sure you reach your goal, or you exceed your goal, or you reach any stretch goals that you have. That final push is really what everybody needs. So that's a wrap on the crowdfunding strategy and getting started. I'm going to touch on resources, and then I'm going to go into some of the page build, and we'll wrap up in the next 5 minutes. Resources at Patronicity, you can find a bunch of resources at resources.patronicity.com. There's everything from ideas to how to get started, to how to build a team, to how to do outreach, as well as case studies, which can help inspire you if you are still seeking an idea. Remember, this is a lighter, quicker, cheaper challenge grant. So if you don't have an idea yet, or if you know some folks in your community that you want, maybe you work at a school and you're like, I'd love to see some kids participate and come up with ideas to transform their community. It can be really simple and easy to come to the resources page, come up with ideas and strategy on how to run your campaign. When you get started, you'll have your campaign page will have this little black bar on top. There will be a help and tips tab. You as the admin on the page will be able to see this. You'll be able to view your campaign page. You'll be able to edit. You'll be able to see your patrons. The financial tab will be all the record of any donations that come in and how it's broken down. And then help and tips. This is where you'll have other links to tips in getting started on your crowdfunding campaign page. And a lot of them download little, short booklets or short guides to getting started. Now we're going to talk a little bit about maximizing your page and how to build it. So Lauren, my team member, built a test cat community catnip garden. And we'll jump over to that. All right. Confirming everybody can now see the community cat community catnip garden page. This is what a sample project page will look like. So at the top, you'll have your edit bar. You'll be able to view your page. And this is what the public will be able to see. And a page is consistent of a header right up here, a subject or a tagline, some social buttons right here. Your landing page or your image of video can also be implemented right here where you see it. You'll have a funding goal. You'll have your location up here. Days left. When it's live, it'll say live, and this close button will turn to support. It'll list if it's a partial funding or an all or nothing. Partial funding means you keep whatever you raise. All or nothing means patrons are not charged unless you hit your funding goal. This is great for projects that you need a specific monetary amount and you can't do it with $1 less, like you're buying a product or an item. But you'll be able to keep all the dollars you raised. It'll have who you are, so people can get in touch with you if they need. And they won't have access to your personal email. It'll just go through the system. Then your project page itself, right? This is where the content and the copy is. You'll talk a little bit about your project and what it is. You'll be able to add pictures. You'll be able to add the value, what you'll be able to do with the funding. And then lastly, on the right, these are giving levels. These can be anything from tangible rewards, which we don't encourage as much, to incentives for people to give, like acknowledgement or simply impact rewards, right? Your $10 will create this amount of square footage or be able to provide this amount of time or this amount of product for the project that you have. And so you'll be able to create these, and then it can help incentivize people to be like, hey, I was gonna give $100, but you know what? The next level up, I get a little bit more. I get acknowledgement on the website. That seems like a better option for me. So this is what a campaign page looks like. When you're in the edit mode, that allows you to edit the page. A lot of the things that you may have questions for may have answers for them right here. We have these little tool tips as well to help inspire you or guide you along the way. And remember, there is a guide that will walk you through this. So having that along with building out the page, it's very simple. You'll be able to add the location, the address. You'll be able to tell your story. Your story comes in right here. You click on it and you can edit it. You'll be able to elevate your tab. You can put in a YouTube link to be able to put a video there. You can add a volunteer button if you want to collect volunteers for your campaign. You can add other team members so they can have access to your page. If you are a nonprofit or a municipality, you can add that status here and it'll show up on the page. You can even create a shortened URL so that it'll be easier to send to folks, right? A very short URL and something like patronicity.com/catnipgarden, right? Very easy to remember. And then you can add a personal thank you note that goes to your donors. You can add giving levels, how to get the money. So right here, you'll be able to add any banking information that you need. So we typically transfer all the contributions at the end of the campaign directly to your bank. It's a little bit easier, safer, and quicker. If you do prefer a check, we can make that happen as well. This is how the campaign page looks and works. And so you'll have the opportunity to build this out in live time. Again, our team will be able to assist you by email if you have any questions, any roadblocks that you stumble upon, or have ideas you want to bounce off of us. Feel free to reach out to us as you're building that campaign page, and we'll help you on that. That's all I have for today's webinar. Again, today we went over everything you need to know from the crowdfunding side. Happy to answer any other questions. And I see, Jen, you have a question about fees. Yes, patronicity fees. So fees on crowdfunding is a simple 5% off of everything that's raised. That's a patronicity admin fee. There's a credit card fee on top of that. Donors have the option to cover all fees at checkout. And so typically we see 60 to 80% of donors tend to cover those fees at checkout. There's a little button that says maximize your impact, cover all fees. And so that is off of what you raise. So if say you have a campaign goal of $5,000 and you fall short of that goal, the fees will just come off of everything that you raise online. Or if you exceed that goal, same fees. Pretty straightforward. If you have any questions about brainstorming ideas, the first session webinar went over that. Feel free to review the resources, or if you have any questions or you want to brainstorm ideas, shoot us an email and we'll help brainstorm ideas with you. What type of space that you have, what are the possibilities that you have, knowing what you're trying to do, and coming up with, I think, the first elements of your project. We can help brainstorm from there. We'll be sure to get you that webinar link for the first one. It is You can also find it on the link to this webinar will also be here. The recording to this webinar, sorry, excuse me, will also be on this landing page that I'm sending. And Lauren posted the YouTube link to the first webinar. It's short as well, probably only about 25 minutes, 20 minutes or so. And this webinar will be recorded and you'll have access to that as well. The slideshow or the PowerPoint will also be accessible for you. Any other questions? If you haven't started yet, fill out the pre-screen form. We get back to you pretty quickly within a day or two, if not sooner. Again, it's just a short questionnaire to get started. Then you'll be able to start on building the campaign page and doing some of the prep work in advance of launching your campaign. And no idea is too small. It can be a really simple project. Really, it has to just improve your community in any way. And so if you are a local individual or a small group, whether you're a group at a school or a group at a local religious center, a church or synagogue or a mosque, maybe you are part of the PTA, and you have a project for the school that you'd love to see. They have the space that they create a paint a mural, or maybe you want to paint crosswalks to make them a little bit safer for pedestrians to cross at one of your busy intersections on your main street. Any of those ideas can come to life. Maybe you're a small business that wants to add seating to the front. That's very community and outward facing. That can also work and qualify. But really, any idea is welcome, and we'll provide any feedback we have if it falls a little bit outside of any parameters. But creating a project that's lighter, quicker, cheaper, that's the challenge. And the winner of it is eligible to receive up to $5,000 as a matching grant on top of that, to double the impact of their project. And really create a big space. Events also could be a great opportunity for this. Maybe it's a winter festival or a spring festival or event. Maybe it's a movies in the park, project where you're looking to buy the screen setup. Those are some ideas. The ideas are endless. Let us know if you have any other questions. And again, as you start to build out the pages, we'll be there to support you in developing those pages. Reach out to us via email if you have any other questions. I don't see any more questions in the chat. Thank you everybody for joining, and have a good day. Again, if you have any questions for us directly, challenge@patronicity.com. Shoot us an email there, and we'll be able to get back to you directly related to the challenge. Have a lovely rest of your afternoon.